Yeah, yeah, I think we can start now. Yeah. Cool. Hello everyone. I'm really sorry for the delay. My working hours are till 6 p.m. I just ran from my office to come here. So so sorry for that. Welcome everyone. I'm Rajasi and Hamsa. We all know each other practically, so there's no need of elaborate introductions. Hamsa is also here, and Hamsa and me were thinking of having a chat with all of you since you have been in the space for quite a some time, and we wanted to discuss about the themes that we have already shared with you. Uh, yeah, Hamsa, I think you can share.
Sure. So, Rajasi and I got talking a couple of weeks ago, and we just thought that we've all done product promotions at some point of time or the other, and we felt like after about a decade of talking and speaking to people and converting them, we just thought, why don't we have like an open discussion on a couple of broad thematic points, right? Just to set the floor, we'll all go one by one. Rajasi and I will hold the space on a couple of topics. And I want to start by, where it started, like awareness, right? Like why sustainable menstruation? That was like a calling for many of us. Where has the awareness piece evolved for you? And, how has the understanding of the space also evolved for you? In addition to how it has, how people now respond to it. Because I know when we all started, there was this huge opposition to this idea of alternatives and what that could mean. But has that changed now? And how has that become sort of like a paradigm shift? So maybe Sonia, you could start, and then after you finish, you could pick one of us, and then we can just share.
Okay, so I've actually not been very active in this space in the last maybe year and a half. But what I've been doing actively is been mentoring a group of young people who are working in sustainable menstruation. They also work with sexual health awareness. And in my own space, because yoga is my primary thing, so there is enough of, there's a whole bunch of bringing both of the aspects together. That's what I do right now. I came into this through a product actually. So I came into creating awareness about menstrual hygiene, etc., through Tara cups. And that was, it was an alternative route. It was not quite the way that most of you all would have come in. So I came from a brand perspective to, and then realized, because the product was it was a single product brand. It was just menstrual cups, creating awareness and promoting the menstrual cup. We did field work. We did not go just alone. So while I did a fair bit of field work on my own, we also worked with other people like Rajasi and Chandni and a few others across the country. I think in most of the places we found that it was the acceptance was greater in rural communities or then in the lower socioeconomic groups, because it was addressing some very real practical problems like water and privacy and stuff like that. We found more resistance to people in urban or the more affluent pockets of people. Having said that, there is, I think, because of a lot of awareness on social media, people are aware of the product. So even in these communities, some of the younger people were aware of the cup. So that means there has been certain great deal of inroad which has happened because of the efforts of a lot of people, across, whether it is influencers, whether it is people going into the field. So that is heartening. And cloth, still there is resistance because of the the icky feeling for a lot of people. And I think that's where lived experience counts. So having community mobilizers is wonderful because they're talking the same language. And that's what has been the experience with Badlav. I think you all know Radhika as well. Um, so that has been my understanding. It's nice to see so much of open discussion happening. like really spreading it out and, calling things by their right name, which I think is the first step. There is no more hiding under the names. And even the guys. So I also did a couple of sessions on menopause, perimenopause and menopause. And frequently what happens is it's also because you're coming to the end of your cycle, of your reproductive, cycle, there is resistance to change. Why should I change now? It's just a matter of a couple of years. So, I don't want to make the shift. But being of that same age group, it's easy to convey. I don't use cups anymore. I use cloth pads because I found that there was resistance to using the cup over a period of time. But I've just gone back to the cloth pads that I've used. So, it's just making it okay to kind of choose whatever you want, and not really being very activisty about it, because it's too facilitated to open a conversation. So it's not about, oh, if you don't use a cup or this, you're a bad person. Responsibly manage your waste, So I think that's also been a shift that we've seen. So it's not it's sort of matured, I think, in some place. It's not just either this or that. There is space for all of it. So even from the educator's point of view, there is a lot more maturity that has come in. It's not like hard or rigid. So that has been my, what I've observed. But again, as I said, I'm not very current. I'm not very active in the space. It's in a very smaller capacity and more as a spectator. That's it. Over to you.
Awesome. Lakshmi ji, I'll invite you to take over.
Hello, I'm meeting Hamsa and Sonia for the first time. And hello. And Rajasi and Kavya, I know from the past. And we've been kind of comrade in arms for a long time. And yeah, so, okay, so like, just to start the conversation, Kavya calls me Pad Party. Party means grandma in Tamil for a lot of people who may not know, who may hear this later. So that's very true, because I'm a grandmother in many ways. I'm also a grandmother, and started back in 99, 2000. It was really a long time ago. And my journey began because I had a fellowship from the MacArthur Foundation. It was a leadership fellowship. And as a designer, I was looking at how to communicate for reproductive health. So the generation of activists that began with reproductive health, like myself, we were looking at all the aspects. It could be contraception, it could be, maternal mortality, it could be so many things. So menstruation was one part of that spectrum. And for me, the trigger for concentrating more in terms of products for menstruation happened because I had activist friends in Ahmedabad who said that as designers, what have you done for tribal girls? What have you done for rural women? So that was back in 2000. That was like so many years ago. And then, so from the field, I kind of understood that tribal girls don't wear an underwear. So at that point, and of course, at that point, largely people were using cloth. And so my response to that scenario was designing a cloth pad that could be put in place using a drawstring. So that was how I began. And my model was do it yourself. So in every adolescent meeting, or every time we had a session on reproductive health, one component was menstruation. And after the session was concluded about how and why we get our periods, everyone sat together and stitched their own cloth pad. So this was like, this went on from 2000 to almost 2005. So that is how I would track it. And then disposable pads were really not available in the area where I was working. And by 2005, there were many changes that started taking place. You started getting disposable pads in medical shops. And even now, some people still call it medical wala pad because it was available only in those spaces. And well, when I began, the word sustainable really, it was not relevant at that time because we didn't have any environmental issues because largely people were using cloth. And the word sustainable and, that whole, the aspects around sustainable started gradually creeping in. And for me, the first time again was back in 2006, 2007. I saw disposable pads lying in the field where I was working because, even now there is no municipality to pick up the disposable sanitary napkins. And also there was a shift in the raw material of the disposable pads. Earlier, there was no gel, there were no plastics, there were no wings, and gradually the pad design kept changing. The pad kept getting thinner. And then suddenly the concerns were different. The concerns were health, the concerns were environment, the concerns were a whole lot of other things. And then the focus shifted on to sustainable. So I think I'll stop here so that, we can take it further. What do you feel?
Sure.
Yeah.
Kavya, your thoughts.
Hi. So, yeah, so I think rightly, like you said, I've been calling her that. I've been calling Lakshmi that. And I think that's also very important because every time I listen to her, I've been hearing different perspectives, things which we would have never thought of. So, when she was even telling us, how the idea of pads and the concerns that we have with pads that have changed over the years. And I think when I started in this space, like my first time that I thought that I need to look into this space was in 2012 when I was in college. And at that time we had in our campus, we had these pads being collected in the washroom. There was a shoot and we collected and the housekeeping staff would, do something. We never cared. We never bothered. So that was a background. And one day it just happened that in our campus that somebody didn't close the trap door after taking out the pads and then it was left open. And our campus had lots of monkeys. So they opened it fully. They were playing and they completely opened it. And the pads were out. The dogs started taking it. Monkeys started taking it. The pads were everywhere. So in our college, students were responsible for everything with the hostels management and everything. And at that time, I was part of the student council. And then it was like, okay, you solve it. So, and then I was like, okay, this is not done because first I didn't want to see it. First and foremost, that was my biggest concern. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to know it. And then I was like, there should be some mechanism because I'm studying in a really good college, technically very advanced college and like the IIT Madras. And why are they not having mechanisms to, remove it, to take it out of sight? That was my first thought because I had personally a lot of stigmas attached to menses. I was very uncomfortable with menses. I had a very bad relation with menses, starting with my PCOS and a lot of confusions, a lot of shaming at home because I was slightly a bit of a rebellious child. And then people would tell my mom, be careful, she's not getting periods continuously. Is she pregnant? Is she getting into rebellious actions? Is she being sexually active? You have to control her. So my association with menses itself was a very negative one. So for me, I just wanted this to be taken care of. I just wanted this to be addressed somehow. And I was also studying environmental engineering. So I was like, we were discussing big problems of the world. We're trying to solve big problems of the world. And after this incident, I remember the next 2 months when I had to dispose my own pads, it really hit me. It was like, you can't keep throwing it into that chute anymore. So that is when I started thinking more, and then I started reading, and then I saw about, I specifically remember the brand name. It was called Jani Pads. It was from African continent. And then I was like, okay, I saw their design, and they put out a lot of content out there on the public domain. And then I wrote to them, and then I started creating a prototype of a biodegradable sanitary napkin. And this was around the same time that Muruganandam was also, the pad man, was also sending his pad out for to a lot of committees. And then I remember there was one committee in IIT Madras, and he was also mentored by IIT Madras, where both of us were there to present the product. And I was so shy. It was a big group of all were men in 40s, 50s. The youngest was somewhere in maybe in their 40s and 50s. And I'm like 23, 20, 22, 23. And I'm like really shit scared to talk about it. Why am I talking about a pad? So for me, it was a very personal thing also where I started, why would I talk about all this? And nobody around me was also very supportive. And then like at that point, I really felt bad that, okay, and somebody also told me there are two products with similar idea, and only one of it will be definitely be selected to be mentored and given support and everything. I knew for sure I wouldn't be, because I wasn't confident of what I was speaking and why I was speaking. And I think that was very important, because I had to know why I was speaking on this, because I'm a menstruator, I'm menstruating. So for me, it was this was difficult. Then I went to I I moved out of that space and I went to a different authority to take out this product. And that is when and then I started uh, the not really great parts, but I started using, and then I realized I'm again putting it into the same shoot. Not even though I called mine biodegradable, I did not have a space to really biodegrade. That's when it really hit me. Okay, great. I didn't have the confidence, because how am I going to biodegrade them? How am I going to compost? Like at that point, I just couldn't imagine that I would do it in my own place. Again, I wanted somebody to come and take it and then degrade it for me if I'm using a biodegradable pad also. So, and then I started reading. Then we got a cup from a friend in Germany. Again, it was like, okay, insertion. No, I'm not even sexually active, so I can't do this. Insertion didn't feel right. And then I was like, okay, cloth. And then I stitched a cloth pad. I was like, Amma, you use it. I don't want to use it because cloth feels so yucky. So I think, and then finally I was like, okay, maybe I should start using the cloth. So for me, the whole idea was to think about this menstruation as an issue wherein, you are going to take it away. The whole concern on menstruation, the whole concern of the blood, I just wanted it to go away from me, go away from anything that I knew, just by devising some great device, either to use it or to dispose it. That's how I had seen menstruation. And slowly I realized that also reflected my personal issue with periods, my personal issue with my sexuality, my knowledge of my body, my comfort with my body. So for me, then it moved from being a product or a device or a, some kind of a solution to take away the issue, to rather address it and learn it. So that is where I started, okay, going back to the basics. What exactly is menstruation? Who exactly gets menstruation? Then I saw there were a few manuals here and there. Then I started reading books and then started understanding, and really spent a lot of time and energy learning and understanding. And once I understood things, how best to communicate it. And I think, and at that point, Ecofem had been very supportive for me, especially in wording. Like, uh, after a point, I was really good to speak to adults, or say maybe people who had some idea. But how do I speak it to people who don't know? So there, Ecofem really helped me, especially Harshini from Ecofem really helped me with the language. Like, how do you speak about this to kids? Because by that time we realized that, this starts from the basics, start from the kids. You just can't go and talk to parents alone to get things done, because parents by that time, by 2013, 14, 15, parents also wanted to give the best. And because the market conversation was the disposable was the best, nobody would want to bring their daughters back to cloth or cloth products. So it's like, okay, yeah. So you go and speak to them, you speak to them. So both audience were important. So there, once I learned that conversation, and then I started talking to people, and then people started being comfortable with me, or started recognizing me in association with menses. And that is when I actually gained the confidence. That is when I started understanding that, this is also about my body. I can also start toning it up. And that's also the time when I saw strong resistance from my family. Like, this is not what you're going to do in your life. You can't quit your job and come and do this. So this is not right. This is not done. And that is when I had to take a stand that this is for my mental health, for my physical health, for my identity. And once I had to take that stand, and once I had to, approach this as my life mission, I think that is where things change for me. That is where I started understanding menstruation, reproductive health, rights, justice, everything around this. It's not just about product, not just about disposal, and understanding the shame and stigma that all of us have across generations. So that was like, it was a lot of learning, lot of understanding, and the journey still continues. Like I know there have been, and there was also time then I was like, going to every close family member or close friend, and they're like, now you shift, you go into something that's sustainable. And half the people won't even listen to me, and other half would be like, what are you even doing? This is not right. You're not even doing the right thing. Shouldn't be speaking. And then I was like, okay, now I understood. No, not to family members. You go outside, go to schools where, there you get the acceptance. So all these journey, all these have been really important in helping me understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. Am I crazy? Am I actually making sense? So that whole journey, and I think this journey was important for me because now it's been more than a decade, still just more than a decade, but still it's a long time. It's a long, I mean, it's a huge amount of investment that I've done. So why I'm doing it, now I know for a large part I'm doing it because this actually keeps me running more than anything. This work really keeps me moving ahead. And even in my personal life, be it with my reproductive health, be it with my own choices of life, be it with my own health issues, I also went ahead and learned a Viva method. Again, happened in Pondicherry, Oroville. Again, that was also facilitated by Ecofem. They connected with the Aviva teacher. So all of these really helped me understand better, help me gain a language by which I could speak to people across the spectrum about it. And it's no more like, you have to follow sustainable menstruation or you have to talk about menstruation. You have to understand. But when I speak to someone, what's in it for you? What do you see for yourself? That shift in understanding, that shift in the way in which I communicate about this, I think that has been really important. And today I was part of a discussion on gendering cities. So how to plan cities with gender as a focus. And there are three youngsters, when they came and spoke about menstruation and washroom as an important thing, it was really interesting because it was in a room of 30. When three people say that as the first thing that comes to their mind, I think not just me, everyone of us who've been in this space, it's a great thing. Wherein, 10, 12 years back at that age, even when I had a product or when I had an idea, I was like, literally shivering to say it. Or half the time I had a presentation, I show 5 years out of 10 slides, I'll maybe show 3 or 4 slides and I will come out because I could feel that stress. I could feel the heat when people were looking around me. But today, there were men also, there were older people also. There were people who were like, okay, why do you bring menses into everything? That was there, at least with some people. But still, everyone was like, okay, but we'll still sit and listen. We'll not show that judgment. And I think that is a huge thing. That change that has happened over the years, that's a great thing. But like when I started, I had thought very childishly, I had thought like, after 3 years or 4 years, nobody's going to work on this bike because by then this would have been sorted out completely. So now I know that's not going to be the case because I'm seeing even with menstrual cups, they're coming with brands which can be obsolete after 2 years. Okay. Because they want to be able to sell more. Cloth pads, which are single use, disposable cloth pads. These products are also there because people want to do business. So this thing will happen, but at least that having the power to know what is right and then making a choice, I think all those conversations which have been enabled, that is where this movement itself is very, very powerful. And I think for me, being in this space and continuing to be in this space, more than everything, this, like if I don't do this, I don't think I can do anything else. So for me, this is a very important space to be in.
Rajasi.
Oh my God, so many things I got to hear today. I mean, I have known Lakshmi ji, I have known Sonia, I've known Kavya, but then so many things that I got to hear today, and yeah, it just made me go back to even my journey. But I will not share the entire thing right now, keeping time in mind. So, but I would share certain things, like certain things that stood for me. I mean, it was quite similar to when it comes to how things were taken back then and how things are taken now. So it's really different. So, like when I go to a school or when I meet some young people, a crowd of 100, there will be at least 2, 3 people who want to work on this topic. And at that time in my college or in my school days, we would not even use this word, and so many things we used to say, like birthday, then auntie aayi hai, and so many such things we used to call. And so like my friend and me, we met, like we have been friends for 18 years, and we recently met because she lives abroad. And then we were saying that how silly we were back then and how things have changed so much. Like we don't relate to these 14, 15-year-olds now who talk so confidently, and they have the vocabulary, and they know exactly how to put their words, which we didn't know then. So I think this is the collective impact that all of us have been working, who are in the space, who are in the virtual room right now, and who are outside the room. I mean, this is the work that we all have been doing, and we are seeing that impact now in different ways. So in terms of sustainability, there's a short story that I want to share. It's a personal anecdote. So I was a cloth user from year when I turned 10. I was actually a week before my 10th birthday, I got my first period. So since then, till I think I was 18, I guess 18 or 19, I used to be cloth user. And I switched to disposable pads because I didn't know what to do with the cloth when I was outside. So for the purpose of being convenient, I actually switched. And I used to really regret of switching. And at the age of 22, I switched back to cloth because I was like, no, मेरे से नहीं हो पाएगा ये. It used to give me rashes and many other things. And now I wonder if someone just had told that 18-year-old me that cloth pads are going to be a future, I would have felt so good about it, and maybe I would have never switched to disposables at all in my life. So of course the debate of products and all these things will go on, but what has stayed with me is the sustainable products that we see, the reusable products. I will the bead cloth pads or a cup. So when you see the blood, you actually touch the blood, or while you are changing your product, there is no shame associated with it, which was there when I was using a disposable, is what I have seen. Also, not just shame, but also I used to not even watch the pad, how much it is filled, or it used to be like Nikalo, wrap it, and it's like 3 seconds you're done, not even glancing at the pad or things like that. But with cloth pads, you actually sit with them. With cup, you are actually touching the blood. So it made me so comfortable with my body and made me understand it better. So I think that is the beauty of what reusable products are, and awareness and other things. So many people have spoke, so I think I will stop here.
Thanks. I think one of the things that has happened in the last decade is one, calling out things for what they are. I think we're really able to do that. Increasingly, with more women coming into the workforce. I know it's not enough in actual numbers, but I think the fact that enough of us are getting to a workplace talking about these things is changing. And I think convenience has changed, right? For the definition of convenience has changed. So from disposing it and making it out of sight, out of mind, to privacy, to discretion, I think convenience has really the terminology and the understanding of that word is changed. Bathrooms in corporate spaces don't look like what they used to look before. I don't know if anybody has seen this. Like a decade ago, washrooms were a very different bonanza. I think now they have these vending machines. They're more serious about, at least they're more serious about access. Whether the product is debatable and all of that, that is, I think, there. But at least the access part of it, many people have understood. And you're right, Rajasi, a lot of us have, I think, put in efforts. It's like, drops of the ocean coming together to bring that. And many of us also spoke about this last mile piece, right? Like Pad Pati spoke about, tribal girls and understanding how important that is. Any experiences of, taking this to last mile that, very quickly we can all just share, sum up. Sonia, we'll just follow the same order.
See, my experience with that has been because the brand that I was associated with was not really out for sale. There were two models. One was where the product was out for sale to the urban or to the consumer that could purchase the product. And even for that person, it was at about 450 rupees at that point of time. And the cups were actually given free of cost or for a nominal price to the end consumer. And the model that we used is to work with ASHA workers or with other community mobilizers, where they could purchase the cup at a nominal price of 100 and they could sell it up to 450. So it was actually also giving them a source of livelihood, wherein they could, whatever they sold it for, they could do it at, that was what they made out of it. They were provided training. And what also happened is in many places, women couldn't afford it. So if that 100 rupee cup, someone bought it for 150, they could buy it from the mobilizer over 3 months. So they could pay in installments. Now, we didn't have to manage it. And for us, the price at which we sold them was pretty much cost price. So there was no real, it was more of a non-profit kind of a setup. So menstrual cups, you'll never make money. And it was a single product brand. It was meant as a social initiative. But also the two-pronged thing is to provide livelihood, primarily for women. So this becomes an extra source of income. And they're the best people to talk about it in their communities. So we found that, when someone, and usually you find in a group of 20 people, typically the size of the groups that would, I'm sorry, that coil is really ballistic. Okay, so we would find that in a group of 10, 20 people, that usually be at least one or two people who were, who were willing to try. And when they had a favorable experience, they became your brand ambassadors, to sort of talk about it. And because of the ease and convenience, they started, like many of them, I remember, would say they would lose a day at work because of pain, because of inconvenience, because of not being able to change. Some of them would work as, in really hard conditions, if they were house help, etc. So it became difficult to kind of work. So they would lose a day off from work. This allowed them to function. In their own places, bathrooms were common. There was no space. Their houses were really tiny. And this gave them the freedom. They didn't have to dry their cloth pads. They didn't have to, put their things out. Waste didn't have to manage. Some of them are washing their pads and, then putting in plastic. So it was double plastic and, a whole lot more mess. So this became something that they spoke about and they adopted. We found that the rate of adoption increased. And in a span, typically it would take about 5 to 7 months, when from one person, it went on to at least 4 or 5. And then it started to kind of, those 5 people became, it was never one person effect or one brand effect. It was put out into the community where it sort of took its own life. I think, there's nothing like lived experience and testimony to do the work for you. It's organic, it takes long, but it's effective. That has been my experience.
Lakshmi ji.
Yes, okay. I will, I'll give you a design perspective. So for me, what happened was that underwear usage started getting common. So again, my design now had to respond to that new scenario of, girls wearing underwear during the time of periods. So that gave me this opportunity to redesign what I'd previously done. And so we made a pad called Iyer pad, which again, we sold, we taught people how to make it. So again, it was a DIY model. So for us, that has always worked really, really well. And at the time that we made all these things, really speaking, there was no way where we could predict so many things. For example, during COVID, along with Arundhati, she was then working with WaterAid, we developed how to make your own cloth pad as a video session. And it was kind of beamed across Madhya Pradesh, and about 80,000 frontline workers saw how the pad could be made, and in turn taught people. And subsequently, in the water aid areas where they were working, we set up small, tiny production units. So those efforts for us have been good. But like Sonia said, it's very difficult to sell cloth pads. But having said that, for us, it's been very difficult. As a non-profit, it's been very difficult. But then when you look at Amazon, you find about 20 cloth pad companies selling cloth pads. So in that sense, who thought that there'd be a space for cloth pads like this? So that has been very good for me. And at Jatan Sansthan, where I'm associated with from a very long time, the NGO I'm associated with, we've been working with boys since 20 years. So like, for example, in our area, all the young boys know about menstruation, and it's spoken about fairly openly. And in my office, any person, any new employee has to stitch a cloth pad. We have a staff about 200 people. Currently, we have a staff of about 200 people, but we have these orientations where, you gather a bunch of all the newbies, and while you are telling them about what we do and what our philosophy is, there is this whole thing on make a cloth pad. And for the non-menstruator, that's the game changer, because they have to then, the exercises, you have to think about who you're going to gift the pad to if you are not menstruating. So for me, these are little milestones. And another milestone for me happened when I heard a transgender person speaking about his experiences of menstruation. And then at that point, I realized that, in the awareness sessions, I was not talking at all about, menstruation among trans communities. This is something that I have started doing. So that has also been a different kind of part of the journey. And because of my long pad party, when I look back, in all these years, the things that we've done, Jatan, along with Arundhati, we are putting together a documentation of all the products that have been coming into the space from 1970. Because 1970 is the time that I can think about, because that is when I started menstruating. So I needed to put we needed to put a cap somewhere. And then I grew up with cloth for a very short time. And within probably 4 to 5 months into my periods, we got pads. How do I explain it? It was like a bandage. It was like a bandage with the core. And none of it was not plastic. And the brand was Comfit, Angela, those were the brands at that point. So we are tracking all this, and hopefully by the end of this year, I should have something to share with everyone. So that's kind of, because I felt that it's more recently, there's been a huge shift towards cup. So if you look at the timeline that my interns have been, because I'm in the design space, my interns are all designers. So if you look at the timeline that these girls have been tracking, so the minute you hit 2015, it's just cup, and more cups, and varieties of cups. So, yeah. And then what has also caught my imagination, though I've not used it myself because I menopause long ago, period panties seem to be more and more acceptable, because I find so many brands now. So in terms of the product innovation space, I think a lot has been happening, and a lot will continue to happen. And for me, the journey as a senior citizen now and everything, the best part for me has been all the younger people, because I just feel it's in able hands. The Kavya and Rajasi and, all the people, all the young people that have been in this journey. I just feel it's in able hands, and they will take sustainable forward. I will close here.
Thank you. I think a lot of this and more people, more younger, more people are coming in. So it's always great. And I think one thing which really felt important to me is, I mean, two things I would say. One is when we when started working on the field, we had a lot of things that we could read in articles, in journals, etc. A lot of time I found that because people who write the articles or people who write the journals, mostly English educated, they mostly come from an urban viewpoint wherein we tend to not understand what is the real or reality at rural or tribal spaces. So one particular example is when I went, I felt that I was okay with cloth pad. I was perfectly fine with cloth pad, but something about me made my audience think that they shouldn't say that they use cloth. They should say that they use the disposable ones. So I think the kind of reading that we have, the kind of content that we have versus what is actually on the field. So with respect to the last mile connectivity, one thing I felt that is very important. And next thing is post-COVID era, when the digital literacy has become really good. Another thing that I've seen, especially in the spaces that I work, mostly in South India. Just a moment, it started raining. Thunder. Yeah. So mostly in South India and Kerala and Tamil Nadu, where I am primarily working in. One thing I've seen is the social media has really made a huge difference in how people perceive things and what choices they make. And another thing that I saw was, especially with cups, that acceptance towards cups and now the preference towards period panties, both these have been manufactured also by social media, the same kind of advertising that had happened for disposable pads. So which is where, like what I said earlier about, having cups which could be use and throw, or cups which have to be thrown at least after 6 months or 1 year. So that is also one thing that is something that we really need to think about, especially because we're all really focusing on the sustainability aspect of it. Sustainability, not just about the product use and throw and that life cycle of the product, also about how much it impacts our health. Because use and throw definitely isn't great for our health also. So that is one thing which I feel is a concern. And again, in these spaces, in these geographical areas where I work, free products are not seen great. Again, also, make your own pads aren't seen as great. So it's always the disposable pads were aspirational products. So the aspirational level, the brand value of cloth pads or the cups are also important. Like if you have a cup which has been endorsed by a celebrity, that actually has more acceptance in these spaces, or a cloth pad endorsed by a celebrity that has a bigger acceptance here. So that aspirational value I'm seeing here even with the reusable products. So I think that's also one thing we'll have to keep in mind. And now more than the people or the last mile connectivity, I think the entire push has to be in the space of policy making and the production side more than anything, because the audience, I feel, to a large extent, maybe because of the spaces that the geographical spaces that I'm in, audience have some kind of an idea. Audience already know about cups and cloth pads and period panties and the whole plethora. Maybe all these three, not the entire set, but still at least these three people know it really well.
Just to add to what Kavya said, that was one of the things when I was involved in designing and developing the entire Tara Cup project, is the communication that we did was made aspirational. So the video, the how to use video that's up on YouTube is an aspirational video because it uses a young person. it's someone who looks urban. So the same product being available on Amazon, the same product being available, in a community which is, which struggles with water, etc. It meant that there was no discrimination. And I think that was, as you rightly mentioned, the aspiration value plus the equality. So it's not really, okay, you are giving a free product, which is substandard. So I think there was somebody who had two separate sets of products. One for the rural law as a free product, and the other one was a more aspirational product. And the disparity was great. So I think somewhere in this space, it's important to see that it's not condescending, it is not talking down to, it is not, it's not like you're not giving it away in that sense. It is lifting rather than, charity as such, I would say. So that was just to add to what you said, Kavya.
Yeah, really important points shared by both. So one more thing that I want to add to this is the one thing that I
Rajasi,
love.
your voice is low somehow.
Hello, am I audible?
Okay. Yeah, that
Okay,
could be me. Maybe because the rains are here. Sorry. I'll put a headphone.
okay. Okay, so one thing that I learned over the years is so it's not like since I started working in the space in 2013. Before that, I learned from different people how to work on this topic. So while working, I've seen that we need a different sales pitch. I mean, if we have to use that word. So depending on the audience. So if I go to a rural audience, like just 3 days ago, I was in a rural place in Roha, which is in Raigad district of Maharashtra. It's a tribal plus yeah, semi-rural kind of audience that was there. So while I was talking there, they were so talking about the financial part. They were really ecstatic when they heard that they don't have to replace the cup every month. So that was the point that they really liked about reusable product, that you can use it for a longer duration. um, and if I did the same session in a urban, in a corporate setup, I have to sell comfort, I have to sell convenience, and all those things so that people think that, okay, this product is worth an investment. So that is something that has been happening, and I feel that if we have such, I mean, I know some of us already have been, making our curriculums based on the audience that we have. So if we continue to do that, I think we can reach more people. And one more thing about last mile, I feel is like since I'm working in an organization right now which focuses more on building partnerships with the government. So I feel it's a good way to go if we have partnerships with governments or organizations who have bigger reach. So if we work through them, we can reach more people and create awareness. Because and one more thing that I wanted to share is I did not think that a video I had made on how to make your own cloth pads. It was made in back in 2015. It was posted on YouTube, but then somehow YouTube deleted it, and I reposted it again. I think somewhere in 2019 or 20 probably. So it has thousands of views. So when all this all this movement has been happening, and I have been hearing people talking about how cloth pads are not for everyone, but what about those 54K views and all the beautiful comments that I get? So I feel the social media and all these have hold a lot of power to communicate what we want to communicate, and that is fantastic. And that is how actually the cloth pad revolution, the hashtag Ecofem, made viral many years ago. So I think that also led us to meet so many people who wanted to switch, and these people again became educators later. So yes, yeah, I really feel that social media, we can make most of it. Yeah, Hamsa. Hamsa, you want to share about this? Or shall we move to next question?
Just to add on, because one of the things that we used to do also is work with the Swachh workers. So in Pune, the red dot, I'm sure Hamsa would be a better person to speak about it. So, because when we look at it from just the menstruators' point of view, but if you're looking at the amount of trash we create, they are very, very strong voices to really, galvanize this kind of change. And it's proven effective. They also made some great videos which are out there.
No, I'll add there in the sense that, last mile, typically when we think of that of people who are in tier two, tier three, tribal areas, villages, the aspiration space there has really flipped, I will say, in the last decade. Whether that is attributed to more of the youth having come lived in cities and having gone back to COVID, the Amazon culture has also reached some of these villages. And I think the question of Swachh workers in cities is as valid as it is for villages also. It's a struggle. It's a struggle to find even a basic thing like a collection system where every door gives, even if they're giving a disposable pad, in a certain fashion, covered with a red dot, giving dignity to those who are doing that job. But what stands out for me in that space is a lot of new young mothers who are in their early 20s, mid 20s, who have now access to this education on their phones, whether it's a good thing, bad thing. I think they're empowered to make those choices for themselves. And in ways, we saw that in one of the workshops I did 2-3 years ago when I spoke to them about cups and pads, the first question, the discretion part of it, right? Like nobody needs to know when you're menstruating when it comes to a cup, is one of the low-hanging fruits that a lot of women want to aspire. And it's also a sign that we are not talking about this open enough in these places. So I think that's a sign for us to do a lot more work. Second piece is also that the mother not wanting to use the cup and, wanting her daughter to use the cup so that she gets the advantage of, discrete periods. I think that's another jump that I've seen a lot of women from low income groups wanting. They keep sharing about that. And there are these fantastic stories that you hear from bastis and these villages, right? Where how they manage to discreetly hide their periods from everybody, like there's a certain sense of shine. You can see a twinkle in their eye when they're talking about it because the eve teasing has stopped in community bathrooms because they're using a cup or because they've figured out how to wash their cloth pad and bring it back with the rest of their clothes. So these are those lived experiences, right, Sonia, that you also hear about this. I also know of some of our Green the Red members who have gone and done workshops for ASHA workers, USHA workers, and also for some Swachh Karmacharis. But even there, the adoption, right? It's taking time. And I think we'll have to wait for it to take its course for them to understand how it is. I remember Dr. Meenakshi sharing the story about how she did a workshop on cups for trafficked women. And it was a hit because all these women don't have access to washrooms to change pads. So for them, the adoption to a cup just made a lot more sense than to that. Which I want to leave the next question to Rajasi in terms of, the conversation of cloth over cups. So Rajasi, maybe we can use that as a connecting point.
Yes, yes. So I feel that the cloth has been villainized over years, and then again it made a comeback through cloth pads, and that was really fantastic. And I actually personally have issue with cloth being called rags because people use word rags as if um, and also word like ganda kapda and all these things. I feel it's you just you're kind of taking away the dignity of people who are using it. So I feel we need to use it, address it properly, is what I feel. Because see, people are not going to stop using cloth entirely. So we will have to see how we can, make it use properly, how they can maintain it. I think that is something that we can look into. I think we can quickly share our thoughts about, about this using cloth, and what is the perception of cloth pads, and how it has been considered over the years. I mean, if we can quickly share about it, maybe we can start with Lakshmi ji.
See, like everyone has been mentioning, it's cloth is it's seen as old fashioned, ghar ka kapda, something that, so something, if something is from the market, it's always perceived as better. So that kind of feeling, I think, remains. That remains with it. It's only the very, very I don't know. I don't know whether we should use the word evolved. It's the very evolved who feel, who don't care about what they're using and are happy to declare what they're using. But otherwise, by and large, in any adolescent group, now in some of the areas where I work, they are all getting free pads from the government. So no one will say, kapda use karte. It's only on the side later, at tea break or whatever it is. Once we come back, you make them write on a slip of paper, what is it that you're using? And then some people will say cloth. So while cloth is here to stay, it will silently stay. It will silently stay. And then it's very interesting. Cloth was always rural, considered rural, but now it's kind of become an urban product, which is, I think, that shift has been nice. That shift has been nice to see. But the way the government is going, again, pads are going to be distributed free. So my concern again is environment. And then in terms of cup, the anxieties of a mother remain, sexually, not sexually active. How can I give it to my daughter? I think those anxieties will continue to be there. But by and large, if I look at, a lot of us in this space have been shouting about informed choice. So I think that is making a silent difference. Gradually, people are using combinations or telling you that they're using combinations, which they were not telling you earlier. Of course, there is still this whole thing of how can I put my pad in a washing machine with the rest of the clothes? There is still that thing is still there. And back in our areas, yes, there's still anxiety about hanging the cloth openly. How can we hang the cloth openly? Men will go blind. Those superstitions still continue. So in that sense, sometimes I feel, oh, have we gone forward? But then at other times, I feel, yes, we've gone forward because we've got menstrual leave now. Although the granting of menstrual leave as a policy by organizations has not been a very smooth journey. There's always been resistance from the upper management. And it continues to be that way. And the anxiety that, oh my God, every month, menstruators will take 3 days off or 5 days off or whatever it is. So it will take time. It will take time for non-menstruators to understand that menstrual leave will not be misused. It's going to take time. So I think all these factors are kind of interwoven and then continue to be interwoven. That is what I feel.
I want to add here, I really like how you say that there's a lot of cloth adoption in urban areas also. For conscious parents, I think introducing cloth to their children is a far more natural progression than introducing a cup. Because I always feel like the ability to understand your body, there's a new function in the sense of understanding of comfort is far easier with a cloth than with a cup, at least for, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but as a mother to a daughter, I would feel like it gives you the space and the understanding to let you be while making a sustainable choice. And without worrying about, oh, I'm contributing, I'm sending out so much trash to the landfill. So I think that's there. And incidentally, somebody had asked me for a pad because they had started bleeding, and I didn't have one, which is where I understood, I can't help a fellow person because I have switched to reusables myself. And I think these moments are also places where you feel I've helped the community on a larger sense, but on individual act, I have got behind, right? So I think we'll continue to have those moments of going back and forth on where it's a good piece and where probably it's not.
Actually,
I've always thought about, like in the American culture, mothers introduce their daughters to tampons as soon as they start bleeding. Correct. So it will take time. India mein bhi aa jayega. It will take time. It's happening already. It will take time, I think.
When my younger daughter started menstruating, that time I was already a cloth pad user. So she started with cloth pads. So now almost she's 17 now. Now she's got the choice. So, but she's started with that journey of cloth pads. And I'm sure that even if she switches to something disposable, the memory of that is there. So, you cannot really control them after a certain point because of whatever the, perceptions they have. And you have to be willing to have, patience to kind of allow that to happen. But it's like, if you make readers out of kids when they read very young, they may lose that habit for some time, but they come back to it eventually. So I think in all of this, some amount of patience is also, critical. And it's as Lakshmi said, it's like we've come a long way. Yes, there's still a long way to go. But, we celebrate the wins, whatever the little wins are.
Yeah. I think I just wanted to share this experience because Hamsa said, correct me if I'm wrong. It's not a correction or anything, but just wanted to share something. Like few of my friends who have children who just started menstruating, and my friends are either using disposable pads or are using cloth. That is, they're not using cups. But they had asked me for supporting their daughters to start with cup. So as a mother, they made the choice to let the daughters start with cups. Not all of them are continuing to use cups. So because when I was also telling them, like, while I'm telling them about cups, I should also tell them about cloth pads, because I've heard from a lot of mothers that they would feel more comfortable to start the daughters with cloth pads. So I also did talk about this, even though I was told to talk about cups. And I've seen that some of them even went on to use disposable pads, but a lot of them have been conveniently using cups, even when their moms have never used it. So I think the first person who asked me to tell this to her daughter, so she was part of a session that I did on sexual health, and she was like, what we discussed in that sexual health session, she felt that those were so important. And by that time she was 40. So she was like, at 40, I'm clueless about most of what you said. After giving birth to 2 daughters and being at 40, I'm clueless about most of what you said. So I don't want my daughters to have some sense of shame. That was where she came with, because when she initially told me, I told, I'll tell you, you tell your daughter, or you start using, then let's put your daughter. So I had a lot of hesitation to start. So then she told me this, and she was like, I still have a lot of shame around sex and my body and everything. So because I saw you didn't have, maybe you should do the talking. You should say that it doesn't really matter if it's a mother or who does it, but whoever does it, if they have the right words, if they have the right process or the right way of thinking about it, it could be good. So that is when one of the first person who made me do it for their daughter, she made me do it. And then afterwards, ever since someone's asked me, I haven't felt confused to do it. But the first time she did have to push me a lot, because like what you said, I was thinking that way because that is what I had been told. And yeah, I don't have a first-hand experience of being a mother to a daughter, but because I saw many others were saying that, I kind of assumed that's how everyone would think, and why would I go ahead and intervene there? But on a personal level, I don't have kids also. No, it's not just daughter, but I feel that even in my own life, I have a lot of shame, or I experienced a lot of guilt when I got sexually abused for the first time. And I think all of that happened because of lack of knowledge. So if the information is, I mean, I'm not talking about the choice to start using, but the information I felt is not necessary to be given by mother or father or teacher. Like somebody or anyone, even if it's they're getting it from some web series or from some random video or some random person, if the information is right and if it is coming from a point of being safe, and maybe the person who's talking it is honoring whatever they are with the body, I think that still is fine. So yeah, and it's not like a correction or anything, but then yeah, I just felt that that
No,
was
you're
also
right.
part.
You're absolutely right. I think we need to understand what makes our children feel comfortable, right? And what product
Yeah,
helps them go through that process where they're also respecting their body. I think that's a bottom line.
yeah.
You
And
know,
I think they will keep
there's
changing based on their peer
yeah, it
pressure
keeps
and everything.
absolutely. It's like you can't talk to a child about why fireworks are bad if they haven't experienced it firsthand. It's very difficult, and the shiny things are available in the market. They're increasing day by day by day. It's not going to stop, even if we all wishfully change the way our households function. For children, and I would say that if you have puberty, the first thing that you should get comfortable with and help your child is to understand that the process is a normal thing. And if a disposable pad helps them feel comfortable for a couple of years, I would say it's still worth it. There's because the basic idea from where I feel all of us started was to remove and eliminate the fact that this is an absurd thing that's happening to us. We've all in many ways in our work tried to normalize the fact that we bleed 4 to 5 days, some of us bleed 7 days a month, and that is okay, and that is part of nature's way of our functioning of body. And I think we have to respect choices that our children will choose to make. Yes, Rajasi.
So yes, so I will not add too many things now because as I shared on the chat, we have another event coming up at 7. So so what we can do is I know there is so much to talk, and maybe we can meet some other time and discuss even more, maybe with even more pointers probably. And so any concluding remarks if anyone wants to share, like really quickly, like just 1 or 2 lines, if anything that we want to share. I know it's not fair, but if anything that anyone wants to share, and yeah.
I'm very glad we did a conversation. We went beyond products. I'm glad we spoke about so many other things. That was very long overdue.
Nothing. I mean, I think we've said it all, and then we have to keep the flag high, whatever happens. Jhanda ucha rahe hamara, etc. So we have to keep doing that, and it will always be 2 steps forward, 2 steps backwards, but we have to go on nevertheless. Yeah. So
Pleasure meeting you, Lakshmi and Kavya. I've not met you before. Rajasi and
Yes.
Hamsa, Thank you, Rajasi and Hamsa, for organizing this.
And maybe we should take a photo also, Rajasi, like this. Last time all we forgot.
I have taken a couple of them.
We have?
Yeah.
Yeah, good,
But we
great.
can take one again when no one is speaking as such, because I have taken photos in between. Yeah, yeah. So, Kavya, you want to share anything or any concluding remark?
No, I'm actually very happy that, I could join this. So, I think we need more spaces where we also talk more than just doing sessions and things. So, like last time also we did one, this one also. So it's really good.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, absolutely. And so Kavya and me were talking the other day that, the National Menstrual Health Policy draft has come up. So all these policies and all those different things, they all talk about, our end goal is always the beneficiary and, we talk about them. But I think somewhere we should also include the people who educate these beneficiaries, so they also get some support, and how they can also be included in the entire thing then, and not just be the implementers of the program. So I think we need to create more such spaces where educators like us, though some of us have been in the manufacturing space and different things, but I think we all need a space where we can talk and share our challenges and journeys in general. Not necessarily we always talk about struggles, but the candid chat we had today, and it moved beyond products. I think that was amazing. Yeah, Hamsa.
Yeah, we just need to keep doing more of this. I mean, that is maybe sometimes maybe with little more refreshments and maybe in person for us to, enjoy and, extend all of this more. I know we're all in different cities, but I vote for having dinner together online. So
Yeah.
super. Thanks so much, everybody. I know it was short notice, and Rajasi and Kavya, we won't keep you waiting anymore.
Yeah.
Cool.
We need to start that one. So that's right.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
thank
Bye.
you so much. Bye bye. 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 We'll
Bye.
stay in touch. Yeah. Bye.